Bendiciones, what up? So let's dive right in. I don't want to make this too long. So as you can clearly see, I have Catholic imagery around my Obatala Baba Ogiyan. Okay, Saint Joseph right over here. So Baba Ogiyan is syncretized with Saint Joseph of the Mountain. I really love this picture because he's wearing coral, which is my path of Obatala's colors, as you can see. And one day I would like to get a Saint Christopher for my Agayu. As of now, I just saw these, pretty carving at like a flea market or whatever, Saint Joseph. But definitely I would like to get a Saint Christopher for Agayu. And of course, La Caridad de Cobre. I used to have for my Changona, Santa Teresa de Jesus and Santa Barbara. And I don't know how you say, Mate Dolorosa, the one that everybody associates with Metresili, but the daggers is associated with Ibokoto. I just don't have the picture with me on hand. But yeah, so this is, clearly this is my stuff and these are all my beeps. So let me turn. So the argument is, well, I won't say the argument, the debate, because there is no right or wrong answer. What sparked this, inspired this video was I was speaking to my madrina weeks back, and we were going back and forth about she is against syncretism. I am pro syncretism, and her godfather, the one who crowned her, is pro syncretism. I grew up in a house where my mother always had a Caridad de Cobre with her chun, her crown chun, and a Santa Barbara with her chango. That was just normal. So I would be lying if I said that didn't play a role. I grew up in it. That's just so normal for me. But I do have a mind of my own. So I'm gonna explain the pros and not the pros and the cons, but the people that are for and people that are against. So for me, the reason why I have the syncretism with Saint Joseph and all the different saints, for me, it is a nod towards the super traditional. It is a nod to and an ode to what the slaves had to endure, having to be forced to honor the saints was horrible. But, and just in general, the Catholic Church. But eventually, over time, the Cubans grew to have a genuine and profound love and respect for the saints. So there was a documentary I saw, long story short, of a woman who's like 90-something years old. She's probably Ibae right now. Crowned Ochun, and in this documentary, and at no point did she ever refer to Ochun as Ochun, not Yalode, nothing. She kept saying, La Caridad de Cobre, que yo tengo mucho amor por mi Caridad de Cobre. I have so much love for La Caridad de Cobre. She never said Ochun. And you would be hard-pressed to tell this Lagba Mayora Santeria and tell her, you need to get that Caridad de Cobre off of your Ochun, off the shrine. They have nothing to do with each other. She would kick you out, and I'm sure she probably got like Saint Barbara on the wall and all that. Like the old heads have a profound love and respect for the Catholic saints. So for me, I do as well. I think it's beautiful. I think it was very innovative. I think as much as it was necessary, eventually it became a desire because they became so intertwined. Hey, so this part was recorded after. But it came to mind. So I wanted to make an interesting distinction that whereas the people that are against syncretism, see it as an oppression and everything, see the saints as a source of weakness. So weakness on behalf of the slaves, that they needed to be innovative and creative, because if not, they would just be persecuted and killed. Whereas the people that are pro-syncretism, like me, like my mom, like the people that are like 50 years and older, see the syncretism as a source of strength. So against it, it's weakness. It represents colonialism, oppression, the days of old that the slaves never wanted to be a part of. If it were like the days of old, there would be no such thing as a saint. And the other side is the saints represent strength, and the slaves and the people, the early people, I'm talking like
the crazy early people. I'm talking about Aurora Lamar and Luisa Silvestre and Yavena Gonzalez, like those people, like the early 1900s. Those individuals saw them as a source of strength. The slaves saw them as a source of strength. That is why, to this day, on December 17th, the people go honor Babeloye. They like dragging themselves in burlap and wearing purple and yellow, and they're honoring Babeloye at the church. So you'd be hard pressed to tell an old head of Santeria that they need to remove their Catholic imagery, because that's all they know, and they don't look. Think of it like this. So the Orisha were people, ancestors. They died. They got elevated to an Orisha status, an elevated status. I'll use that word, elevated status, and are now intermediaries and intercessors on behalf of Olofi. You get to Olofi, Olodu, Olodumare, like going to the Orisha, and they go messengers of God. And now if we look at the Catholic saints, they're people, live human existences, they died, now they're ancestors, they got elevated to another status, and now they act as intermediaries and intercessors on behalf of Jesus and Mary and all of them, to get to God, the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Same idea, same concept, different theories, theologies and ideology. But at that basic level, ancestors get elevated to get to God. And we reach the middle area so we can get to the top area. Same thing. So it's not that far-fetched within concept. And I just really want to stress that the people that are pro-syncretism, and that the slaves themselves got strength. They got inner strength, they got hope, and they got faith that one day their circumstances were going to change, and grew to have a love for St. Lazarus, a love for St. Barbara, and got strength to say, yo, Santa Barbara Bendita, ayúdame. That's why, anybody who's like against syncretism, or just, I would say not against it, but like the whole idea of saints, like, it's all Christian bullshit. Well, then if it was a bunch of Christian bullshit, then how come at a misa, it's so common to hear, you got to dedicate a candle and a white egg and all this to St. Clair. You gotta put an existencia. It's early morning. I can't even talk right now. St. Barbara, plenty of people, I gotta wear this. I gotta wear burlap every 17th because San Lazaro walked with me. And you find out what santos walk with you at a misa, San Gregorio, Santa Barbara, San Lazaro, any saint. Santa Lucia, Santa Sofia, all the different saints that walk with a person. San Gregorio, the doctor. So these individuals existed, and they walk with us, and you find out exactly who walks with you. I'm not saying every saint walks with every single person, but they exist just as much as the Orisha. And the slaves, after a while, after so much love and reverence and getting strength from the Catholic saints, and after so much admiration for them and their lives and their stories, it became where in Chango and Santa Barbara, where you say, who's your crown? Like a person's like 100 years old. My crown, what santo you got? ¿Qué santo tiene hecho? What saint do you have made? That's what they say. ¿Qué santo tiene hecho? What saint do you have made? Not Orisha that you have made. Then they say, yo tengo hecho Santa Barbara Chango, or yo tengo hecho la cadena de cobre. Just because it's so intertwined, and there's a deep strength that they receive. I just want to really hone that point in. The slaves, even though it all started off horribly from like the Columbus days, by the time it got to the late 1800s and the early 1900s, that the persecution, that oppression was flipped on its head. And now the slaves saw the saints as one of their main sources of strength, just as much as the Orisha. And that's why they're so intertwined. So I just wanted to, of course, get your comments. This is all, I'm trying to, this is my opinion, but also trying to put in like historical fact. You go to old Santero's house, and they're gonna have saints in their house. You go to an old Cuban house, you go to an old 90-something-year-old freaking Santera. This is what's gonna be in their household. All these saints and whatnot. Why? Because they love them, they admire them, and they draw strength from them just as much as the Orisha. And they do their rosary every day, and they go to church every Sunday, and they incorporate holy water into their rogations, and they throw holy water around the house, and things like that. You know, that's, you know, let me know what y'all think about that, you know? So back to the main video.
A perfect example that I would say of the synchronicity, that even people that are against syncretism everybody says, instead of saying Babaluaye, instead of saying Shakpana, instead of saying Asohano, everybody and their mother says San Lázaro. I gotta receive San Lázaro. I'm a Lazareño. Or when are you gonna receive San Lázaro? Hey, there's a tambor de San Lázaro. And they have statues of San Lázaro, the actual Catholic saint, and yeah. So that's the one santo. And notice I do say santo. Some people say, no, it's not a santo, it's an Orisha. I grew up in a household where the word Orisha did not exist. My mom would always say my santos. You know, she's an older woman, and she would say, hey, can you get my santos from up top? And, you know, I grab her about that and bring it down so she can, you know, handle it. But she would say, get the santo. Or my santos are over there. Or, you know, she would just use the word santo. And that's normal. I use the word santo. So for me, it's just a nod to the days of old where it was necessary. But me, myself, and a lot of others have a profound, deep respect and reverence and love, genuine love for the Catholic saints. The other side, those that are against syncretism, they say it's not la Santeria, it's la cariocha. La cariocha is la regla de ocha. So santo and santa has no place within ocha. The biggest reason for being against it is, you know, the slaves, they did what they didn't want to, you know, they did what they did. They syncretized out of necessity, not out of desire. They syncretized at the end of a whip, not because they found any beauty in any of the saints. Yeah, they did later on, but because they needed to, not because they wanted to. You know, so against, if you keep beating, you know, the slaves, eventually they're gonna be like, hey, I guess I got love for this saint too. So it's the colonialism. It represents colonialism. It represents perpetuating oppression. It's an insult to the slaves who never wanted to have anything with the Catholicism. And it's not as traditional as it could be. So, you know, there's people that are with it and against it. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Is, you know, do you think that Ochun and Obatala and all of them are insulted? You know, is my Obatala insulted that I have a crucifix on top of him because that represents the oppressors? Or is it just a sign of respect because Jesus represents Olofi, and Olofi is above all? So, you know, and hey, if my crown was Obamoro, you best believe this would be all draped in purple. You'd have a purple cape, and there'd be a crown of thorns, and it would just in all things Jesus. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. For it, against it, and yeah, I really look forward to just creating a dialogue, and let's learn and grow. Okay, peace out.